welcome to this live session hosted by TalentSprint. I'm Sylvia, and here we are going to look at one particular question type for today's session, which is passage completion, otherwise called as Cloze test. In preparing for the SBI clerk exams, this is one question type that I thought where we could analyze certain strategies and how to approach this particular question type in this session. So before we get started, I'm sure all of you are aware that State Bank of India has released its notification for probationary officers as well. In fact, today, the online registrations for applications start. It will continue for the next 20 days. So you have time till the 24th to apply. So as you're aware, you will have the prelims and then you'll have the main exam, which of course will have the objective test and a descriptive test, followed by group discussions and interview. So as and how you get shortlisted, you progress to the next stage. So just wanted to let you know that, those who again preparing for the SBI PO, we go ahead and offer valid programs for the same. So you can choose what applies for you, and for the best offer, do log into talentsprint.com/bank, or you can call us, right? So we'll just wait for a couple of more people to join us for today's session. It's going to be an interesting session simply because certain things that you would not have thought of, in terms of, is this a strategy that I could even apply when I'm attempting close passage in the exam? Yeah. So things like that you're going to discover in today's session. We're going to look at two passages. One, probably usually for clerk exams, the difficulty level is slightly low, right? So usually you have a story-based passage, but it's also good to kind of be prepared for a factual-based passage as well. So we're going to look at two such passages. Hopefully we'll be able to cover both of them in the time that is allotted, right? So we'll get started with the first one, which is a fact-based passage. And I'm going to share the screen, and we will first look at certain strategies or approaches that we need to keep in mind while attempting this question type, and then we'll proceed further. So let's quickly look at what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind, while we attempt this particular question type. The first one is skim through the passage to understand the main theme, right? So why do we need to do this? Because we need to choose related words, right? Associated words that are linked to what the passage is talking about. It helps with that. So a quick read, because context, close passage is all about context, right? So there will be words in the context which will help you arrive at the right answer options. The second one, substitute your own words for the blank and look for the closest meaning in the options. So sometimes what you can do is you can come up with your own words to fill the blank, and then look at the given options and see which is the one that is closest in meaning to the word that you substituted. Third one, we will look for arrangement or grouping of words. This is nothing but collocation, right? So usually two words will go together. Why? Because we've heard people use that repeatedly in various contexts, right? That's what collocation is. So we look for arrangement or grouping of words. The fourth thing is basic grammar. We need to keep in mind, things like tense, what is the time that is kind of conveyed in that particular context, right? Is it talking about past tense, present tense, or future tense, right? The right word choice, that's the next one that we need to keep in mind. So in this particular context, this is the word that is more appropriate, which will meaningfully complete that context, right? Vocabulary. The next thing is simple logic, right? Just applying logic based on what the context is trying to convey to you, right? It's very logical to select this particular answer option. The next one is word class, which again will we can kind of weave it into basic grammar itself. Word class, again, for this particular context, do I need a noun form? Do I need a verb form? Do I need an adjective form? Or do I need an adverb form? The next one, whether the context is giving me a positive or negative detail, How will I know this? There will be some keywords in the context that will help me, uh, give that meaning, give me a positive or a negative meaning. The next one is we're going to pay attention to the topic sentence, right? The first sentence of the passage. Why? Because the topic sentence will always give me an idea of what the passage is going to be about, right? That's the first sentence. And we will also look at surrounding context, which means preceding, following sentences, etc. The last one is we will also keep in mind, keep an eye open for keywords that could be repeated throughout the passage, right? So there could be some words which are very relevant or important to the passage, and they could be repeated throughout the passage. So which means they might appear more than once or twice, right? So these are some of the things that I want you to keep in mind. So while we attempt the passage itself, we are going to apply either one or more strategies for the same blank, and sometimes you might have to club one or two strategies to arrive at one particular blank. So let's get started. So here we are. This is our first passage, right? It's a fact-based passage. It's not a story-based. So what we're going to do is, let's go with the first strategy, which is obviously to go through the entire passage, right? We're going to skim through it quickly, and then we'll come back, and then we'll apply one or more strategies for each blank. So let's read. The assessment of humanities dash in the next 100 years, which has taken 21 months to complete, argues strongly that to achieve long and healthy lives for all 9 billion people dash to be living in 2050, the twin issues of population and dash must be pushed to the top of political and economic agenda. Both issues have been largely dashed by politicians and played down by environment and development for 20 years. The number of people living on the planet has never been higher, their levels of consumption are dash, and vast changes are taking place in the environment. We move ahead. We dash choose to rebalance the use of resources, dash a more egalitarian pattern of consumption, or we can choose to do nothing and to dash into a downward spiral of economic and environmental ills, dash to a more unequal and inhospitable future. At today's rate of population increase, developing countries will have to build the equivalent of a city of 1 million people every 5 days from now to 2050, says the report. Global population growth is dash, and for the next few decades. By 2050, it is projected that today's population of 7 billion will have grown by 2.3 billion, the equivalent of New China and in India, right? So here's the passage in front of us. Yes. And we have 10 blanks. So after going through the passage, right, we kind of have an idea what is the passage talking about. So can I have some responses in terms of what do you think is the passage is about? Give me a one word or a one-liner. So I have a couple of responses here, which says environment is changing by human activity, assessment of population and their consumption after 20 years. All right. So Pawan has given me a couple of keywords in that one-line summary. Upcoming hazards of immense population growth, that's Amit. So there's some great one-liners that you've come up with in terms of assessing what the passage is about. So let's get started with applying that knowledge in arriving at the answer for our blanks. The first blank, the assessment of humanities dash in the next 100 years, which has taken 21 months to complete. So the options for blank 1 are prospective, perception, prospects, aims, and prospecting. So what do we need here and what can we quickly eliminate? Let's look at our first blank. So I already have some responses saying, some of you have saying option 1, prospective. Some of you are saying option 2, perception. But let's quickly look at it. What can I quickly eliminate in this passage or in this option? For the first blank, I know we're going to apply a little bit. So let's fall back on our strategies. One of the strategies that we saw is, word class, right? Do I need a noun form? Do I need a verb form? Do I need an adjective form, or do I need an adverb form? The assessment of humanity is what in the next 100 years? So this blank is answering the question what, which means I need a noun form, right? So from my options, what can I quickly eliminate? What is not in a noun form? Can I have some responses? What is not in the noun form? Option 1, prospective. Prospective is in adjective form, right? Yeah? Prospective is an adjective form. What else can I eliminate? Which is not a noun form. Prospecting. Right? The fifth one, I can eliminate that as well. Prospecting is a ing verb form. Right? I don't need this form as well. So I have to choose between option 2, 3, and 4. Well, if I look at option 2, 3, and 4, then it boils down to, so we've applied the strategy of word class to eliminate 2 wrong answer choices. And then we've left with second, third, and fourth one. So let's look at it. Second one, perception. Perception means insight or interpretation, right? And then we have prospects. Prospects means possibility. The chances are. And aims, we know what aims are. Aims are, again, intention or purpose. So out of these 2, 3, and 4, which do you think is the most appropriate? Yeah, Raja has come back and said, yes, 1 and 5 we can eliminate. That's what we've eliminated, Raja. So and then we're looking at 2, 3, 4. We're trying to figure out which is the closest one that can fit the blank meaningfully, right? So here we're going to apply just vocabulary, right? Word choice. So after word class, we're moving back to the next strategy saying, I need a word that can meaningfully fit this context. The assessment of humanity is dash in the next 100 years. Again, you have a clue word, assessment, right? Assessment is another clue word, which means tests. There have been evaluations that have taken place where they're talking about what are the chances of humanity's in the next 100 years. What are their chances, right? So the word that brings that meaning is option 3, right? A lot of you came back and said option 2, but we're not talking about insight, or we're not talking about what the interpretation is. We're talking about what are the chances of humanity as such. So the assessment of humanity's chances in the next 100 years, which has taken 21 months to complete, the assessment has taken 21 months to complete, argues strongly that to achieve long and healthy lives for all 9 billion people. Okay, so we're edging closer to second blank, but for the first blank, as I said, the closest option, let me see if anybody gave that answer. I have Subrang who's given that answer. Most of you have come back and said it's option 2, which is not the case, as I explained, right? We're not talking about an insight or an interpretation. Keeping in mind our keyword assessment, we're talking about what are the chances in the next 100 years, right? And the closest word that brings in the meaning of chances or possibility is option 3, prospects. Right? Let me just write it down. Right? We're looking at chances. Moving ahead, we move to the second blank. So for all 9 billion people, dash to be living in 2050. We're talking about the people in the future, right? So let's come back. Again, in that second blank, we can again apply word class. What can we eliminate? If you apply word class for blank 2, okay, somebody asked why not aims? Fourth one, let's again quickly address that. See, aims, again I said, is purpose. The meaning of aims is either purpose or intention, right? Now, the entire sentence, we're talking about, look at the following sentence after the blank. We're talking about long and healthy lives. Right? The purpose is already there in the context. So we're saying what are the chances of humans having long and healthy life? We're not saying what is the purpose, right? Are you following? Whoever told why not aims? Yeah, just to answer that person's question. Same goes with perception, which is insight here. Right? Okay, moving on. The second blank again, let's have some answers. Let's have some answers for the second blank. Expect, aspiring, expectation, expected, aspirations. Now, let's apply word class. What form do we need here? An action word. An action word is a verb form, right? So the assessment of humanity's chances or prospects in the next 100 years, which has taken 21 months to complete, argues strongly that to achieve long and healthy lives for all 9 billion people, dash to be living in 2050. So verb, yes, thank you. Who was that? Ishnav, Anjal Ishnav, okay. Which is correct. So what can I quickly eliminate? What is not in the verb form in, from the second blank, the options, what can I quickly eliminate? I will eliminate option 3, which is a noun form, expectation. I will eliminate option 5, which is again a noun form, aspirations. All right. Now I have to choose between 1, 2, and 4. Expect, aspiring, and expected. Out of these 3, which will fit meaningfully? Right? So we've applied word class. We've eliminated 2 wrong answer choices. We come back. We just have to apply a little bit of tense and logic, right? To achieve long and healthy lives for all 9 billion people, expect to be living or aspiring to be living or expected to be living. Now, aspiring is a wrong word choice again, right? Because meaningfully, it doesn't make sense to have aspiring. How can we say that 9 billion people are aspiring to be living in 2050? That doesn't make sense. Expected, right? That's the closest option. Yes, Raja has given me the right answer. Ranu Radha also gave me the right answer, which is option 4. Expected. So that's our right answer choice. Let me use the right ones to eliminate so you know the difference. Right? Okay, so for the first 2 blanks, yes, look what we've done. We've applied word class. We eliminated wrong answer choices. We moved forward. Then we applied a little bit of vocabulary. And the second one, we applied a little bit of context in terms of what will be the right word that will fit the blank. So 9 billion people expected to be living in 2050. Now we move to the third blank. The twin issues of population and dash must be pushed to the top of political and economic agenda. Let's look at third blank. What are our options? Option 1, consumption. Option 2, resumption. Option 3, revamp. Option 4, reconstruction. Option 5, expenditure. Okay. So out of these 5 options, now what strategy do you think we can apply? If you paid attention to the first 10 strategies, yeah. So how did you see? Amit says resumption is the answer. A couple of you are saying the first option is the answer. But how do we arrive? Always remember in close passage, you can always rely on the context because the context will help you, right? So can someone point out to me, if you're saying it's option 1, how do you know it's option 1? Yes, Pawan, you're correct when you say it should be a noun form. But the beauty is, if you look at the options, all of them are noun forms, right? Consumption is noun form, resumption is noun form, revamp is noun form, reconstruction is noun form, expenditure also is in the noun form. Correct? So all 5 are in the noun form. So what do we do now? The passage has told you. I'm just waiting for someone to give me the answer, but that's okay. We'll move forward. Remember, one of the other things that I said is, I think one of the last points in our strategies, or just the last bit for context clue maybe, okay, right. If you look through the passage, through the entire passage, remember I said look for repeated words or phrases. Any keywords will be repeated throughout the passage. So can you pick 1 or 2 words that are repeated in the passage? Quickly go through the passage. Okay. I'm just going to give you a minute, right? I'm going to give you a minute. In the first half, we have this. And in the second half, I want you to see if any words are repeated. So if you look at it, population, exactly. Maulik is correct, right? Population, the word population appears at least 3 or 4 times in the entire passage. Let's quickly see that. See, I have population here, okay? Let's go to the next one and see again where population is appearing, right? I have another population here, I have population here. So I have population, and do I have anything else? I have another word, consumption, right? So these words are repeated in the passage, right? So I have consumption again here. So I have consumption twice, population at least 4 times, which means these are predominantly the first issues, right? So when they say the twin issues of population, and you don't have to worry, it has to be choice 1 here. Consumption must be pushed to the top of political and economic agenda. So the topic sentence, surrounding context, as well as throughout the passage, keywords that are repeated are what the issue is about. So look for keywords, you'll be able to arrive at the right answer. So those who said resumption, incorrect. Resumption means to resume again, beginning again, right? None of the other options were mentioned. Revamp, what's revamp? Revamp is to renovate. Again, it doesn't make sense. Meaningfully doesn't fit in the context. Reconstruction is activity of constructing something again. Not right. Expenditure is an expense again. Not the right word in this context. So consumption is our answer. Moving on, 4th one. So both issues, which is population and consumption, have been largely dashed by politicians and played down by environment and development for 20 years. Now, we're going to apply a little bit of one of the strategy. I'll give you the clue what strategy I'm talking about, right? The strategy for the 4th blank is going back just to show you what the strategies are, yeah? So out of these strategies, if we look for the 4th blank, it's a little bit of positive and negative detail. Okay, I want you to pay attention to positive and negative detail. That's the strategy that we're applying for blank 4. So now look at the options. Read that sentence. Both issues have been largely dashed by politicians and played down by environment and development for 20 years. So the options are ignoring, ignored, cared, attended, attention. Now, there is a keyword. Bhaskar, Jitin, Ghosh has given me option, I think 2. You're saying ignored. Okay, which is fine. But my question is different. For those who are struggling, can you identify one keyword which is either giving a positive or a negative meaning? Can anybody identify that keyword in the sentence? There is a keyword which is giving me either a positive or a negative meaning, which is helping me. Amit, I need the keyword in the sentence, not the answer option. Right? There is a keyword in the sentence which is giving me a played down. Very good. Who's that? Kaharsha. Yes, that is our keyword. Played down. What is the meaning of played down? Right here. Played down. So can somebody tell me what is the meaning of played down? Played down means to lessen the effect or importance of something. Right? Both issues have been largely dashed by politicians and played down. So played down means you're lessening the effect or importance of something. It's a negative thing. Out of my options, I can eliminate cared, attended, and attention. 3, 4, 5. I have to choose between 1 and 2. Because we're talking about an action in the past, I need not the continuous form, but the past tense form ignored. Right? So again, if you're confused between the options, look for clue words in the context which is either giving you a positive or a negative meaning and eliminate answer choices. Moving on. 5th blank. So the number of people living on the planet has never been higher. Their levels of consumption are dash and vast changes are taking place in the environment. Again, what are my options for 5th blank? Unprecedented, limited, useful, surprised, and amazed. Again, you can apply positive, negative detail for the 5th blank and eliminate some options. So obviously, if the people are higher, if the people living on the planet are higher, are more in number, right? Their levels of consumption. Sonia, Surya, Asha, Pavan, are you sure? Is that the answer? I want you to apply a little bit of logic. Look at that sentence again. It says the number of people living on the planet has never been higher, which means more people. How can their levels of consumption be limited? I want you to think again. So Harsha says eliminate 3, 4, 5. That is correct, Harsha. We can safely eliminate 3, 4, 5. I hope Harsha is talking about 5th blank and not 4th blank. All of you have come back and told me limited is the answer for the 5th blank. But I want you to please go back and think about the meaning that the sentence is giving me. Amit has come back to me. Okay, Harsha. So Amit has come back to me and saying the 5th blank, the option is 1. Pavan also says it's 1. What is the meaning of unprecedented? What is the meaning of unprecedented? Unprecedented means unheard of, something exceptional, something unusual. Right? So the number of people living on the planet has never been higher. Obviously, their levels of consumption are going to be huge. Right? So how can it be limited? Limited is the contradictory word of what we want. So if I have to eliminate options, I will immediately eliminate first 2, option 2. It's not going to be useful, right? If the levels of consumption are going to be higher because the number of people are more, It's definitely not going to be useful. We are talking about the levels of consumption, right? So I need an adjective describing those levels of consumption. Now, surprised and amazed can be adjectives, but they're not describing the levels of consumption. You can be surprised at the people's level of consumption or amazed at the people's level of consumption, but I need a word that is directly describing the levels of consumption, which is unprecedented. Right? I don't know how many of you got this correct. Yeah, Amit, which it's like unparalleled, has never heard of, right? So please keep in mind the context. Understand what meaning the context is conveying. Is it giving a positive or a negative meaning? All right. So let's do a quick review, right, in the first 5 blanks itself before we move on to the next 5 blanks. A lot of you came back and gave me option 2, which is not the right answer, right? So let's do a quick recap. So for the first blank, what we did is we applied word class, we eliminated wrong answer choices, right? And we said the answer is 3. Then we applied a little bit of vocabulary to choose between perception and aims, and we said why it's not the right fit. For the blank 2, again, we applied word class, we eliminated wrong answer choices. Yeah, and we arrived at expected. Then for 3, we said we looked at the passage itself and we looked at repeated words. Keywords are always repeated, and keywords tell us that's what the passage is revolving around, right? That is the issue. So that helped us arrive at the right answer, which is consumption. Then for the fourth one, we looked at context clues. Within the sentence, there was a word, there was a keyword played down, which gave us a negative meaning. We eliminated wrong answer choices and we arrived at ignored, option 2. Likewise, for the fifth blank also, we did the same thing. We looked at the context, it gave us not a positive meaning, right? We're talking about the number of people on the planet are high. Obviously, their levels of consumption are also going to be high. So limited, useful, surprised, amazed, eliminated. The only option that describes the levels of consumption, which will directly correlate to the number of people being high on the planet, is unprecedented, never heard of, unimaginable, exceptional, unusual. All right, we're going to move to the next 5 blanks. All right, so here we are. We choose to rebalance the use of resources, a more egalitarian pattern of consumption. Or we can choose to do nothing and so 6, 7, 8, 9, all of them almost, are in the same sentence, a long sentence. So all 4 blanks are in that context itself. So let's quickly see what are the options for that. I'm having a bit of a delay getting your responses. So let's look at our options, right, for the 6th blank. I already have people giving me answers. Pankaj has said can, Anjal says have, but let's see. We choose to rebalance the use of resources, a more egalitarian pattern of consumption. Yeah, so a lot of you are coming back and saying can, okay. So let's look at it. Is that the answer? We choose to rebalance the use of resources. We would have, we should be, we can, we are, we have. So grammatically, we know obviously for the 6th blank, we need a word that brings in the meaning of possibility, right? Logically, that's the right fit for the 6th blank. Pavan, why do you say it should be? We should be choose to rebalance. If I'm using option 2, right? If I'm using option 2, what should I strike off? B, right? Because that BE is there, I can't use that word. We should choose to rebalance the use of resources. Makes more sense, not we should be. Yeah? So for the sixth blank, the answer option is option 3. We can, yeah, it's possible that we can do this. We can either do this, we can choose to rebalance the use of resources, dash a more egalitarian pattern of consumption. Now, let's look at the options that we have. For the seventh blank, we have prepositions: to, by, for, with, of. So Yagna says for, Anjal says with. Now, let me give you a hint, okay? The preposition that we need here is a preposition that gives us or brings us the meaning of towards a given state, right? There is some sort of, people are expected to move in the direction of a more egalitarian pattern of consumption, right? So we can, by how? By rebalancing the use of resources. So we have to use our resources wisely. So I need a preposition that will give me the meaning so as to reach with the resultant condition of. The resultant condition is we need this particular pattern of consumption by wisely using our resources. So what is that preposition which brings in that meaning where it is saying people use your resources so that we move towards this pattern of consumption? I'm giving you clues in the sentences that I'm saying. So let's see who comes up with the right answer. And people who are in the habit of reading, you know, if you are in the, you can also, some of you can also do this. You substitute each of those prepositions in that blank and see which sounds right. But it's a tricky thing to do that. Yes, Pankaj and Kaharsha, correct. The right preposition to fit blank 7 is option 1, to. Why so? Because to is a preposition that gives the meaning of towards a given state, you know, with the resultant condition of. We already established the fact that the condition that they want is this particular pattern of consumption, egalitarian pattern of consumption, right? With, of, for, by are not the right prepositions that give or bring in that meaning in this context. You also have clues. Look at the next sentence itself before the 8th blank. Or we can choose to do nothing. What is the preposition used here again? To. Yeah, or we can choose to do nothing and to dash into a downward spiral of economic and environmental ills. 8th blank, drifted, drift, flew, flowing, or walk. What are your options? Again, for the 8th blank, what word class do we need? What can I quickly eliminate? To is your clue. But if you look at the 8th option, all of it is in the verb form. Anybody doesn't know the meaning of drift? What is the meaning of drift? People are giving me the responses. What's the meaning of drift? Drift means to move aimlessly, right? To move aimlessly. So in this context, they are saying, or we can choose to do nothing. So when you have nothing to do, the most appropriate word that will fit in the context is, when will you have nothing to do? When you have no aim, right? So bringing in that meaning is the word drift, but we need the right form. So what can we eliminate here is option 1, out, and all the remaining 3, 4, and 5 does not fit the blank meaningfully or otherwise, right? Or grammatically. So let's recap that before we move to the 9th blank. So we can choose to rebalance the use of resources to a more egalitarian pattern of consumption, or we can choose to do nothing and to drift into a downward spiral of economic and environmental ills. dash to a more unequal and inhospitable future. What do we have for the ninth blank? Led, held, leading, going, doing. This is another easy one. Logically, we need a word that brings in the meaning of, to bring in a particular course, or to guide in a particular course or action. Yes, Kahasha, correct. We don't need the past tense form. Some of you have come back and given option 1 for the ninth one. We're saying this is a possibility that this can happen, which means we're talking about we can choose to rebalance. So everything is happening current, it's an ongoing process they're talking about. We need an ing form, which is option 3, leading. Right? Going and doing again does not fit the context meaningfully. We can't say environmental ills doing to a more unequal. Does not make sense. Going to a more unequal, not going anywhere. It's talking about an outcome leading to a more unequal and inhospitable future. So leading makes, okay. Thank you, Harsha. Thanks for, letting me know, because I kept calling some other name. Perfect. So here we are. We just left with the last 10th blank. Now, out of the strategies, we can still apply one of those strategies, one of the 10 that we saw. The whole context, someone said someone wants to explain ninth blank. So let's do that again. See, if you look at the whole context where there are 4 blanks in that one sentence, I said it's a long sentence. Let's read that sentence. We can choose to rebalance the use of resources to a more egalitarian pattern of consumption, or we can choose to do nothing and to drift into a downward spiral of economic environmental ills, leading to a more unequal and inhospitable future. Why can't I use the first option, led? Because I need some other words if I have to use option 1, right? If I have to use option 1, it should read into a downward spiral of economic and environmental ills, which will have led to a more unequal and inhospitable future. But that's not the context, right? We don't have other words supporting the word led, and we're not talking about a past event. Likewise, held 1 and 2, we can eliminate because we're not talking about a completed action, right? We need to choose between 3, 4, 5, and we already established the fact that 4 and 5 are not meaningfully the right fit in this context. Even if you're confused, look at what meaning you need, right? The outcome. We need a word that is talking about something that will be guided in a particular course or action, to bring in a particular course, and that word is leading. Moving on, at today's rate of population increase, developing countries will have to build the equivalent of a city of 1 million people every 5 days from now to 2050, says the report. Global population growth is dash for the next few decades. What are the options? Evitable, inevitable, inevitably, viable, dispensable. So for the last option, what I want you to do is, right, if you are a little confused, I already have a lot of answers, but in case you are still confused, what you can do is you can substitute that blank with your own word. If you have to substitute that blank, with your own word, apart from the answers there, can I have some other words? If you have to put your own word in the 10th blank, what word will you put? Can I have some answers? Global population growth is dash for the next few decades. Give me your own words. Give me some of your own words. Unavoidable. Yes, Pankaj. Any other words? Not controllable. Okay, Pavan. Yeah, something that's impossible to avoid or prevent or certain, right? So once you've done that, inescapable. So once you've done that, go back to the options and see out of the five, which is the one that is closest in meaning to the one that I came up with. It's obviously option two, inevitable. Something that is certain, something that cannot be avoided, something that is cannot be prevented, right? Evitable is just the opposite, so obviously that's not the right choice. Inevitably, it's not in the right form, it's in the ly form. We don't need that. We need an adjective describing how the growth is going to be. Viable is not the right word because it means practicable. Dispensable again is not the right fit. Unimportant or not essential, something that can be dispensed, that's dispensable. That's not the right fit in this context, right? We've arrived at the right answer option. So can we quickly go back to the strategies and see how much of it that we applied in just this one passage, right? So what did we do? We went through the passage to understand the main theme. We came up with one-liners that helped us associate related words. For the 10th blank, we substituted our own words. Another blank also, we did that in between and looked for the closest meaning options. Arrangement or grouping of words. Again, so, if you look at leading to a, yeah, that's again a collocation, the expression, right? So there were maybe one or two. We didn't probably apply this much, but this can happen. Grouping of words can also happen. We applied definitely word class. We applied right word choice, vocabulary. We also applied logic based on the context. We definitely applied positive or negative detail in two of the blanks, right? We looked at the topic sentence and we looked for keywords that were repeated throughout the passage. So pretty much we applied all of, more or less, right? Almost with an exception of probably one or two, we applied all of these strategies to arrive at the right answer options for this passage. Now we looked at a fact-based, but let me tell you, for a story-based, right, it's purely logic. You just have to go by how the story follows and words will automatically come to you. It'll be that easier. It's good that we took time to look at a fact-based passage, right? So far, it's good that we looked at a fact-based passage, and we pretty much applied most of the strategies that we felt was needed to arrive at the right answer option. So I want you to kind of take these back and continue practicing. Probably in other sessions we look at story-based, but just reminding you about the SBI PO notification as well. So those of you who missed the initial part, just reminding you that your online registrations for application has started today. You have the next 20 days, you have time till the 24th to apply. Go ahead and do that. And for best offers, I would definitely suggest you to log on to talentsprint.com/bank, right? Choose the best offers, make use of that offer, or you can call us at 1-800-2000-916. Okay, so hope this session was useful and helpful for you. I will catch you guys in another session, same time. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Welcome to Talent Sprint. The SBI Clerks Exam 2016 is just a month away, and I'm sure your preparation for this exam is in full throttle. You all must be aware that simplifications carries a high weightage in the numerical ability section of this exam. We usually get about 5 to 10 questions from this topic alone. So it is very important that you are well aware of all the techniques and shortcuts that can help you solve questions from simplifications faster. And to add to your preparation and help you with this topic, TalentSprint presents a free live session on simplifications from the previous year's SBI clerks paper. This session is scheduled for the 11th of May at 6 p.m. So don't forget to join us with your friends in this session and understand the best ways and techniques to solve the questions on simplifications faster.
Welcome to TalentSprint. I'm Sylvia and I'm here to share your daily dose on job skills. In this video, we will look at 5 things that you need to avoid on your resume. Now, there are certain things that are a put off and a definite no-no. So by the end of this video, you will learn how to avoid certain things on your resume so it looks and reads good. One of the first things you need to avoid on your resume are personal pronouns.